Hi, and welcome to session 3 of the Recruitment Business Accelerator Program. We're going to be talking about staff attraction. This is the single most critical, important factor in growing a high-performance recruitment company. Without good people, you will struggle, your business will struggle, you will have high staff turnover, it will cost you a lot of money, and profitability will be very low. Staff attraction, I cannot stress bringing in the right people is the most important factor as we continue to improve and grow your recruitment company. Before we talk about attraction, let's look at why people leave where they're currently at the moment. And here is some great research from LinkedIn actually, whereby they've broken up reasons for leaving jobs into age groups. They've covered millennials, Gen X, and baby boomers. And what's interesting to note here that all three categories talk about lack of opportunity for advancement. And I think what's important about that is that they're not talking about money or financial return, they're talking about advancement. And I think when we think about it, most people want to think that they are learning and growing in a job. They're not becoming stale, and recruitment can be quite repetitive. And if people don't think they're advancing, then they're always going to be open to new opportunities for advancement at other organisations. Millennials here, you can see they're looking for more challenging work. I think that's it's a real trait of millennials that they do want to be challenged. You might think that they don't, but they do. And then millennials are also quite financially oriented as well. It's the number 3 factor in the reason that millennials do leave an organisation, because they don't feel that they're being compensated adequately. But when we look at the two other age groups, Gen X and baby boomers, they don't talk about compensation at all in their top 3 reasons for leaving their current job. They're more looking at opportunities for advancement and a great work culture. And number 1 for Gen X is they're unsatisfied with senior management. So that's a leadership issue. And you would have heard the old phrase that people join companies, but they leave leaders. And this particular statistic backs up that saying. And then when we look at baby boomers, these are the older generation that is still very active in the workforce, many of them in senior management positions now. Many of you are approaching that particular category, as I am. And again, senior management, a dissatisfaction with the leadership of their business is a reason for leaving, not the company itself, but the manager or leader that they're reporting to. They're also unsatisfied with the work environment and the culture where they're at. And thirdly, they see lack of opportunity for advancement. So when we develop a staff attraction solution for your company, it's very easy to flip those factors around and think about what you need to implement in your business. If you can make sure that you have a strategy for advancement, that you have strong leadership, you develop a great culture, you provide a challenging work environment with industry standard or even slightly above industry benefits, then you're 90% the way to build a great staff attraction strategy. And in the workbook that I have for you, there are some questions around helping you to build this strategy so that you are offering something that's really quite special. And so when people are ready to leave another organisation, because of those factors that we discussed, you can make sure you've covered all of these 5 key areas. Now, the recruitment industry, ever since I've been consulting to recruitment companies, has always had staff turnover approaching 50%. Now, this is very, very high, and it's quite typical of sales-driven organisations, but it's particularly high in the recruitment industry. And I want to spend just a little bit of time sharing with you why I believe this is the case. It hasn't changed much over the years, and I think the reason that this happens is that we're continually set on a model where we require recruitment consultants to operate on a 360-degree basis. That is, the role that we want them to perform and make them perform involves sales, recruitment, administration, and a whole bunch of other tasks that not one individual can possibly have all those attributes. The ones that do end up being leaders, such as yourself, and they go on to leave their organisation and set up their own recruitment business because they do have many of those skills and they've been able to juggle all those skills to be a successful recruitment consultant. So I think there's a lack of role clarity in when recruitment companies are hiring people. They're not sure whether they want people that are sales oriented or whether they're great recruiters or they're great administrators or even great resources. And often people are guessing and trying to find people that have all of those attributes. And these are the unicorns in the market. There's not many people that do have all of them. Every company might have one or two, but it's very rare for all staff to have those abilities. And so expectations are very high. So when staff are hired, a manager or a leader will expect those people to have all those attributes. And when the person doesn't perform, they'll say, right, you're no good. No, sorry, you haven't made target, you're out. And I think that's really unfair because not everyone can have both sales ability and recruitment ability all in one, for example. The classic example are accountants. The accountants are usually very good technically, but they're not very good on the sales front. And you don't want them to be very salesy. You want them to be very good at the technical work that they do so that they provide you a good result when they're preparing your financial reports and also lodging your tax returns. So it's the same in recruitment. A client or a candidate wants someone that's a very good recruiter, not necessarily a great salesperson. So in the US, for example, since day one, US recruitment firms have separated sales, recruitment, resourcing and admin into separate roles. And US recruitment companies lead the world in performance and profitability because they've used the traditional model that all professional services business use, and that is having a sales team and having a delivery team. We really hang on to the old European model of the 360 model, and I think that's probably the single biggest factor in the high staff turnover we have. But the good news is if we break up that model, and I've got a whole presentation attached to this session for you to look at, if we break up this model, we can overcome this issue and also make it easier for you to source staff that have the abilities and the attributes that you require to be successful in those roles, and consequently your staff turnover, which is hugely costly, will drop quite dramatically. The other reason that I think staff turnover is really high is that it's like the plumber with the leaky taps. A recruiter or the owner of a recruitment company will generally shortcut the recruitment process because you're doing it so often for your clients. You probably won't put the same rigor into recruiting for your own team. And you remember the adage that you need to hire slowly and fire fast. It's true. You really need to take your time. There's 50 steps in the recruitment process, and I've shared with you the 50 steps that we've mapped out in the market, and you have to apply that same rigor for your own hiring processes. And I don't believe, well, the recruitment companies that I've consulted to over the years, many of them rush the process because they're really desperate to get new people on, to fill an empty desk, to build their company, and haven't really taken their time to really check they're bringing the right people on and putting them in the right roles, which is what's really important. So I think the other issue here is that recruiters are very good at, let's say, exaggerating their past performance. They're very polished. They've interviewed so many times with their own candidates, and they've been in front of clients. They're very, very good at telling a good story and making up reasons why they might not have done so well at a particular company previously and why they've left. And I think it's very problematic to be hiring recruiters that have worked at past organisations unless you're really clear that the reason for them to leave is valid. And you need to spend some time really understanding whether it was because of their poor performance or whether it was because of the lack of opportunity or poor leadership from their previous employer. And you need to dig down into that because recruiters or people that have worked for past recruitment companies, particularly if they've hopped between 4 or 5 recruitment companies for very short stints, are very much likely to have a short stint at your organisation if they have in the past. The other reason that I think turnover is high is because we don't do enough to validate the past performance of staff members that come in. Over the years, I've literally managed, I don't know, hundreds of recruiters via them reporting to me or the leaders that have reported to me. And gosh, I can only recall maybe 5 reference checks over the past 20 years, people calling and asking for my opinion on the performance of a staff member that they're hiring. So I see many of my staff members popping up in new organisations, and I send them a congratulation message, but I was never called as a referee, and I would have been very happy to give them a good reference. And then conversely, I've seen some staff that I've had to, in the nicest possible way, exit from a business. Maybe it was because a team I inherited, and I see them pop up in new roles, and no one called me to reference check them. And no surprise, they've turned out very poorly, and even left the industry because they weren't cut out for recruitment. I like to also check financial performance in terms of billings by asking for a copy of a pay slip to show commissions that have been paid to validate the sort of figures that past recruitment consultants put forward when you are hiring them. And then and also have a look at examples of their work. I mean, communication is so critical in the role of recruitment that I like to see the types of presentations that they might have done to clients, emails they might have sent to clients, an example of a candidate summary, for example. These are ways in which you can properly validate someone's ability to do the role. And then another reason I think that there is high turnover is that not only do we expect recruiters to do the whole 360 model, we don't give them any support. And I think a great sales-driven recruiter can be even better if they have resourcing support, because resourcing is a different skill. It takes a lot of time. It requires attention to detail. It takes concentration, and a more sales-driven recruiter who potentially can be a high biller for you, if they're bogged down in that, then they have a much less likelihood of billing what you really need them to bill, and they'll also become frustrated with their performance and leave, or they will be tempted to go out on their own and start their own recruitment company and capture all their billings because they're doing so much work for that particular return. So I think providing resourcing support to your best consultants, who are more of the sales-driven type of consultant, then can return many times in terms of increased billings. And there's plenty of offshore low-cost solutions there I've mentioned before. From one of our partners that we use is Seaforce Global in Melbourne. And that's a very low-cost way in which you can free up your people to bill more without adding huge cost to your organisation, and consequently profits will increase exponentially, and also staff turnover will fall. Imagine if you were able to offer a low-cost offshore resourcer to experienced recruiters that join your organisation. I think that would be a really good attraction strategy. Leadership is another reason for high staff turnover, or really lack of leadership. And I've talked before about how many leaders in recruitment companies actually haven't had any formal leadership training, and they really rely on the experiences they've had in the past of leaders that have led them. And often those experiences haven't been particularly good. Obviously, they've left an organisation previously, and there's not much leadership training out there for recruitment companies. Most people lead on the job; they lead by instinct. But strong leadership is really important. And I've always used the adage: firm, fair, and friendly. And if you're really firm in your decision making, if you're fair in your decision making, and if you're very fair about how you manage your team, I don't believe you can go wrong with that sort of structure, if you like, around leadership. And often we're promoting recruiters who have been great recruiters into leadership positions, but maybe their skills as a leader are either underdeveloped or may never be developed because that's just not their strength. And finally, turnover, I believe, is high because we're very poor at onboarding. We don't do enough once we've decided to hire someone. In the old days, recruiters were just throwing the yellow pages and they had to flick through the old paper-based phone book and start cold calling. And that caused massive turnover, massive failure, and a huge cost to the industry. So onboarding really important. How are you going to really ensure that the people that you've spent a lot of time hiring are going to be successful? How are you going to support them? How are you going to train them? How are you going to encourage them? Because once you've invested in hiring someone, it makes no sense then to just leave them to their own devices and hope that they'll be successful. So over the years, we've done a lot of research into the attributes of great recruiters. And this has been important research for us because every owner of a recruitment company has been asking us, how do we get the right recruiters into our business? And I've always said, well, you need to be clear, obviously, on whether it's a sales-driven recruitment role or you need them to be more technical in recruitment, or whether they need to be good at resourcing. So and that's the first thing I say. But then if you're looking for people that are the good sales-driven recruiter, which is, I think, what a lot of people do want, they want people that are able to win business and then deliver business, then you really need to look at some important attributes and of what these people look like. And so we did quite a lot of research, over 100 companies we researched on what were the attributes of their best performing recruiters. And these are people that bill over the $500,000 mark. And here are some of the results that we got back. They were achievement driven, they were results oriented, which kind of is the same thing. They were very customer focused, which you can understand. They're very committed and loyal to the company. They had great communication and interpersonal ability. They're very resilient and persistent. They have good job related expertise. And very importantly, they had networks within the industry that they recruit in. So this hiring checklist is something that you can be using yourself when you are hiring people, and you can be asking behavioural-based questions around these particular attributes to check that you are getting people that are right for our industry and that will perform. And if we look at networks, for example, we've seen a lot of failure of people that have had to develop a network from scratch. It takes a long time to do that. A network and the credibility in that network takes many, many years to build. So thrusting someone into a sales-driven 360-degree recruitment role with no network is often going to lead to failure and contribute to that 50% staff turnover I talked about. So again, there's lots of attributes here that are really important, and it's like having the perfect partner, if you like. You know, not everyone's going to have everything that you require of them, and so you need to supplement those needs by having strong relationships with many people, so that when we apply that logic to getting great recruiters in, we need to be very clear on the role that we want them to be doing, and the attributes of achieving in that role are going to be quite different. So you need to be hiring around attributes of performance based on the role you want that person to do. Okay, let's talk about your staff recruitment, because your staff recruitment is so important. And while you might be great at recruiting for your clients, I've seen it so many times that when recruitment agencies are recruiting for themselves are busy. Just as there's a good reason that your clients outsource their recruitment to you to do a very good job, it's very difficult for you to do a really good job recruiting your staff if you're very bogged down with running your business, handling clients, recruiting yourself while you're growing your recruitment business, and you have to find this extra time to recruit your own staff. And yet this is the most important element of growth. You really need to be sacrificing some of the other things that you do without losing contact with managing and supporting your existing team to focus on recruiting your own staff with the rigor that it requires to get it right. Once again, I refer to the 50-step recruitment process. You need to go through every single step. You cannot cut corners, because as soon as you cut corners, as you know with clients, things can unravel and you get a poor result. When recruiting, you need to really sell those attraction solutions that we talked about earlier to make sure that you're really impacting the message that you send out there to attract people that are not getting what they're looking for in their careers, and that you are able to offer them those particular solutions because you've really thought about it. I think you need to use all sourcing methods. We've done a lot of research on what sourcing methods work. Word of mouth obviously works really well. Taking people from within the sectors you're recruiting from works really well. But once again, you need to be able to get the attributes and the role right for the people that you're bringing in. Job advertising, I always laugh and say that often it can cost a huge amount of money and you get a lot of candidates. None of them are any good, but time and time again, I'm proven wrong when that one really good quality gem does appear in job that have responded to a job ad. They might not necessarily responded, but if you've put your phone number on the job ad, often they'll call you and say, actually, I'm interested in this role. I'm looking to move from my current recruitment company, but I don't want to actually apply online and have my details available online. And so that's why it's important to be out there and calling around, talking to your contacts, talking to candidates, talking to clients, telling them that you are looking for new staff really does result in some good leads and people that you can put through your quite rigorous but friendly recruitment process. Again, you need to be really clear the people that you are hiring. I don't believe it's going to work to really try and find people that can do everything. And then I really believe you should be breaking up the recruitment process into sales, into recruitment, resourcing and admin. And then you'll be able to attract a lot wider group of people into your business if you can break it up a little bit more and play to people's strengths. More sales-driven people can work more on the business development side of recruitment, and more process-driven and technical people can work better on the recruitment and resourcing side. So, really good technical people that are great at resourcing and recruitment will often leave an organisation if they're put under too much sales pressure. It doesn't mean they're not a great recruiter. They're probably really good recruiters, but it's because they're being forced to do something that's not their strength. So you've got to be really clear when you're hiring on what you require when we're talking about splitting up the 360 recruitment model. One of the adages that I used a lot in the past was, and I got this from, gosh, it must have been a 40-year veteran way back at the beginning of my career 20 odd years ago, consulting to recruitment companies. Ask yourself, can this person do the job? Will they do the job? And will they fit your organisation? And I don't think you can go wrong when you ask these questions. Have you validated, can they do the job? Have you asked enough questions, behavioural questions around their past performance? Have you validated their past performance? Are they motivated to do the job, or are they just going to be doing the same job that they did before in your own organisation? What are their motivators? Are they motivated? To what drives them to be successful? You really need to uncover that, to determine if they will do the job. And then will they fit? Will they fit your culture? Have they got the right attributes, the right behaviours, are they humble enough? Do they match your culture? You might have a very high performance, high billing culture, or you might have a more, let me say, a culture that is more inclusive, that is more gentle, which is a little bit more people focused as opposed to sales focused. You need to check that person's going to fit the culture that you're trying to create in your own business. And importantly here, you can train aptitude. Aptitude is skill, but you cannot train attitude. So if someone's giving you attitude during the recruitment process, and we always know what people are like, often when we're recruiting for our clients, we get to know candidates really well. Are they responding to you quickly? Do they communicate well? Are they polite to you? Do they spell correctly? Is their grammar good? You learn a lot about a candidate's attitude and the way that they approach the world, particularly in business, by their communication process. So you get a very good handle of that. I'd much prefer to have someone that's got a great attitude on my team, that's willing to learn, that wants to work hard, that doesn't complain, rather than an experienced consultant who is asking for everything, who's always complaining, who's might be billing but upsetting the team and providing headaches for you as a business leader. So keep that in mind. You can train aptitude, you can train skill, but you cannot train attitude, and it's very rare for people with poor attitudes and a poor approach to work and teamwork for them to change. I haven't seen many people over the years change at all, and often as far as staffing goes, that really high biller can cause more damage in your organisation than two lower billers put together who really add to the business and provide camaraderie and contribute to a great culture in your business. The other thing that I suggest you do is use the same types of behavioural interviewing that you would when you're working for your clients. Really match the interview questions up with the attributes that you require from the person that you want in the role on your own team. Ask them questions. How did they handle difficult situations? How they might have handled conflict in the workplace? How they might have handled if they had a very poor month and they picked themselves up? What did they do to pick themselves up? Again, validation, really important here when you're recruiting. You must see examples of work. You must get validation of past billings. And more importantly, well, just as importantly, I should say, reference checking is really key here. And when you are reference checking, it must be with their previous manager or leader and not just a colleague that they've asked you to contact, because, of course, that colleague's going to say good things because they're pre-prepared. And I actually think that the recruitment process needs to go way beyond the typical CV. People can make up anything they like on the CV. And you need to validate what's on that CV. Does it match up with their LinkedIn profile? Can you really check that what they've said is correct? And if there are a bunch of lies on their CV, then that gives you an indication of what that person might be like when they are working in your organisation. So the CV can be made up. Referees are always going to say good things about people. And recruiters interview very well. They're used to interviewing. They're very good. Many of them are very good communicators, and they can tell you a very good story. So really, there's a lot of flaws in the traditional recruitment process if you think about it. So what you need to do is you need to be doing activities beyond the traditional CV interview and reference check to really determine whether the person's going to be good. So have a think about the types of things that you can do to really validate if the person's going to work out well in your organisation. And the final word I have on recruiting staff yourself is I've seen a lot of success from people recruiting graduates. Maybe they're graduates from a communications degree, for example, or a graduate with really good attributes from the sector that you're recruiting in, because I think credibility and good communication skills, if they're put together, they're attributes that can make a great recruiter. And you might say, yeah, well, graduates are quite junior, and I think it's important not to put those juniors into client-facing sales roles until they have got a degree of competency and maturity. And again, that can feed into staff turnover. If junior people are given sales targets that are way beyond their level of skill, experience, and maturity, they'll often fail and end up exiting a business, and really it's not their fault. So, and graduates, before you know it, they would have risen up through the ranks. And this talks to the reasons that people leave a recruitment company, and that is that there's no advancement. So imagine if you could have advancement. You start a graduate off in in a very junior resourcing role, so they get to know the recruitment process, how to find good candidates, how to build networks and build their own competencies and in industry knowledge, then and before you know it, they can be rising up into a more sales-driven role, or they might stay along the track of delivery and or resourcing and be very successful at it and be able to work well with your more sales-driven recruiters. So then again, I've talked about how it's really problematic hiring recruiters that have hopped between, gosh, I don't know, maybe more than 2 or 3 recruitment companies. If they've moved very, very quickly and they keep saying it's because of the management or the culture of the companies that they've left, you can't buy into that. I think maybe if that happens once, you know, I'll believe that, but if it's happened on multiple occasions, then it's obviously a reflection on them as the candidate rather than the businesses that they've worked with previously. So, you know, clients tell me that they haven't had a huge amount of success getting people from another organisation. The exception might be that they've started their career in a larger organisation, a large global, for example, and they're looking to work in a more entrepreneurial, more dynamic, smaller recruitment company, then that can work really well. And the final word on this is that I think to be a great recruiter, you've got to be very credible in the sector that you recruit in and to have knowledge of that sector. For example, if you're recruiting in IT and you have worked in IT sales before, then you've got a lot of credibility because you can talk in technical terms to the candidates that you are recruiting and to the clients that you're recruiting for. So sector knowledge and, again, networks, really, really important for the people that you're bringing in to your organisation. And once you open up the potential net to capture great people from the industries that you're recruiting for, then you're not looking for this very elusive 360 recruiter that can walk in and build 500,000 right from the beginning. So you can train recruitment, but very difficult to train industry expertise unless it's an industry that's quite easy to pick up and that you've got someone that spends a lot of time really understanding the dynamics of the industry that they are recruiting for and spends a lot of time building networks and credibility in that industry. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation because we've covered a lot of ideas around attracting staff, but also making sure that you're attracting the right staff that are going to be successful and stay for a long time in your recruitment business. But my final word here is that it's all very well to have great promises. Over the years, I've seen owners promise the world to people that come into the organisation and then they don't actually deliver on that promise. And this is really, really critical. You actually need to deliver on the promise that you make to the people coming into your organisation, because then they will stay and then they will attract additional people, and the whole attraction strategy will keep feeding off itself, and you'll bring more and more great quality people that are high performers into your business. So that's the end of session 3. Please complete the session 3 worksheet that you'll find attached below. And then also I've got a copy of the 360 model obsolete presentation that I've done previously, so you can dig deeper into how you might think about the different ways you can deconstruct the 360 recruitment model so you can attract better staff and play to their individual strengths and build a business that is more able to serve your clients and candidates better with much lower staff turnover, and also the business case for offshore, if you haven't seen it, which is a great solution to provide support to your more sales-driven recruitment consultants so that they can be freed up to bill more and to be happier in their work. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in session 4.